Thank you for staying with us. The University of South Africa has achieved an unqualified audit opinion for the 2022 financial year. The university has also grown its reserves from 8 billion rand in 2018 to more than double in 2022. Joining us is Willem Du Plessis, who is the UNISA Acting Executive Director for Finance. Willem, good to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, could you explain what an unqualified audit opinion means for UNISA and why it's so significant for the university's reputation, but also its operations?
Yes, thank you, Nhlanhla, and to the viewers. Obviously, an unqualified audit speaks to sound financial and governance practices at any organization. So it means that there are no significant findings which would have reflected anything otherwise. Why the significance? We went through some challenges following the departure of the previous auditors. There were some delays by the Auditor General to confirm the appointment of the new auditors. It took some time for the new auditors to find their feet and new ways of work. So all of those and other things contributed to the importance of having achieved this unqualified audit.
But what specific financial management practices or even strategies contributed to this achieving of an unqualified audit opinion?
I think in any organization, one always focuses on sound governance structures and sound financial practices. So obviously that would mean sound policies, which confirms the strategies and the agendas of the university or any organization for that matter. And also when it comes to cost containment, it may sound as if it may not be related to an unqualified audit, but it also reflects on fruitless, wasteful and irregular expenditure to minimize and even eliminate those. So the financial policies and practices that were instituted reflected all of those, hence the unqualified audit.
As mentioned in my intro, UNISA's reserves have grown significantly from 8 billion rand in 2018 to over 16 billion in 2022. Let's speak to this.
Yes.
What factors have driven this growth and how does it impact the university's future initiatives?
Drives it was, although we went through some turbulent economic periods during that time, including COVID and what went with it, as well as the war between Ukraine and Russia and all the other international instabilities, it again points to sound financial management. The university has an operational investment committee which operates through the management committee of the university, but we have appointed fund managers who manage our investments through our sound investment policies. And I think it speaks to prudent, but also, let's say, preventative practices when it comes to investments. We must always remember that we work with taxpayers' money and students' money, so we cannot go about recklessly with those. So one has to be cognizant of that when looking at your investment strategies. But one is of the markets to some extent, but also to your own practices. What it means for the university is it allows us to also focus on our future strategies and goals. One of the things that we are focusing on is to really always improve on the services to students. That doesn't come for free, but we cannot always depend on the fiscus. The fiscus is also under pressure, so we have to have our own reserves in order to enable us to focus on our own strategies, not only to improve services to students, but also to speak to our social mandate, which mostly focuses on student services, to expand our regional footprint. We want to move away from leased spaces and owned spaces rather in certain areas. So those are just some of the areas that we are focusing on as a result of the increase in our investments.
Right. But how does effective governance at UNISA support, call it financial stability and accountability? Are there particular policies or even frameworks that have been instrumental in this initiative?
Yes, if one can only look at on the financial side, I think I did mention the Operational Investment Committee that operates under the ambience of the investment policy. So if one looks at the rate at which our investments have actually increased under difficult circumstances, one would assume that the investment policy contributed greatly to that. But there are also a number of other finance policies and institutional policies which assisted us. There's a budget framework, a budget policy. There are policies on cash and cash management. There are policies on creditors. So all of those policies also are revised and reviewed biannually or every 3 years at most. But all of those always have to speak to sound financial governance. So in order also to satisfy the auditors, but it is not all about to satisfy the auditors. I think we also, as an institution, have to have our own collective accountability as an institution, and it speaks to the ethical and moral values that we also want to reflect to the taxpayers and to the students.
Willem, you mentioned the collective contribution of UNISA employees. In what ways has employee engagement been fostered to really support financial management and governance there?
Yes, that is something that we really put a lot of emphasis on. Also when it comes to budgeting, but I want to draw a line between budgeting and financial accounting and the unqualified audit. We always say that the audit is, and the budget, neither of those are just a finance function. Finance may be responsible to manage and coordinate the process, but it is always the collective responsibility and accountability of all the vice principals and their line functionaries to assist the finance department. One of the important, or a couple of important functions as part of an audit is the whole matter of governance, which falls under the registrar. So we lean heavily on the registrar. There's a specific focus on ICT audit and policies. So the CIO has a great role to play, the same with HR and many other areas. So we are grateful for the contributions of the other portfolios who also assisted the university to achieve an unqualified audit.
What challenges do you anticipate in maintaining this level of financial integrity, especially moving forward, but also especially in the context of economic uncertainty in South Africa?
Yes, economic uncertainty in South Africa is something which we have to live with. But I think if one looks at the growth of our investment and the unstable period during which that happened, it shows that we are rather prepared for these unstable times. If one looks at challenges that may lie ahead, Clem Santer speaks about the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. So perhaps you are asking to predict the unknown unknowns. But obviously one just always wants to stay abreast and on top of all developments, but also do data analysis to look forward and look out for signs which may point to warning signs in the environment, specifically with a view to achieve an unqualified audit. So any specific challenges? Not really. We just want to upkeep the standard that we set for ourselves, not only during the 2022 unqualified audit, but for all prior years.
There was a mention of CNAs. Can you elaborate on the 10 catalytic niche areas which were mentioned in the announcement? How do these initiatives align with the university's mission and financial strategy?
Yes, the catalytic niche areas not only with UNISA's vision and mission and the financial strategy, but it also speaks to the national strategy of the university. So the catalytic niche areas focuses on many areas that are aligned with scarce skills as identified not only by government but also by the university. One must remember that our subsidy, which is forthcoming from the fiscus, pays a higher price, if one could put it like that, to training students in the scarce skills areas like science, maths, and the like, also in the areas of agriculture. So those are the areas that we really focus on, and one would like to believe that not only does it add to the value of the greater good of the university, but even more so the greater good of the country and the students. one always also focuses on the rate of unemployment, and that is something that one would also like to address. But the catalytic niche areas focuses solely on our strategy to have an even wider footprint, not only physically, but also to look at the scarce skills areas and to assist students in that regard, but not only students, it also then assist staff, academic staff, to do research in those scarce areas, and obviously that then leads to research output subsidy for the university.